On April the 22nd, a march was held across the United States by advocates against child abuse. We implored lawmakers to take the subject of child abuse seriously. It was also a rare opportunity for child abuse advocates, many of whom have been operating alone, to meet with other advocates for support, strategy, and solidarity. This nationwide march was a grassroots effort by Children Without a Voice. Children Without a Voice was started by Lin Seahorn, who was abused in foster homes, group homes, and other institutional settings. Heal Online, a loose confederacy of advocates demanding transparency in the troubled teen group home industries, joined in the marches in Washington State, Kentucky, and here in Southern California.
You may know, Dwayne, I'm a child abuse survivor, and so, but when Samantha Runion was kidnapped, raped, and murdered, that struck a chord with me. I couldn't understand when she was taken literally from the front of her yard, why everyone was still living their life, going about their business. And it struck a chord where we should all be looking for this little girl. I couldn't understand why. And so now, what I said, if I ever work with, in the movement, I really, really wanted to meet Erin Runyon because she's done a lot of great work with the Joyful Child Foundation, empowering children. So I called them and I said, I'm going to be leading LA in this march and I would really like for you guys to join me. Sat down with Erin and we had coffee and we talked about different issues.
The monument was dedicated on Samantha's 11th birthday. And the FBI was very instrumental in Samantha's case, and they wanted to do something to honor her and all child victims. And so they asked me if I would be. And a man got out of his car, asked the girls if they would help him find his lost puppy, and then he rushed at Samantha, picked her up. She kicked and screamed. She was 5 years old, but she had the presence of mind to yell to her friend, "Go tell my grandma," and he threw her in the car. And she was found the very next day having been sexually assaulted and murdered. And for me, I had to gain some context for what had happened to my child, because I really thought that stranger abductions hardly ever happened. I thought you were more likely to win the lottery than you were to have your child taken from your front yard. And what I learned blew me away. And ultimately, I felt a responsibility not just to Samantha, but to the thousands of child victims that we never hear about, to be a voice for child protection. And what I learned, first and foremost, was that every year there are about 58,000 non-family related child abductions. 58,000 in the U.S. Of those, about 115 are cases like my daughter's, where it's a total stranger and the child is not recovered alive. But for me, everybody says only 100, right? If you think about how often you hear about a child abduction case, you don't hear about that 150. You might remember 5 or 6 of those children, but most of them don't make it onto the national news. So there again for me, realizing that there were 100 other families that year that experienced the same horror and did not have the opportunity to have a voice, compelled me to use mine. And then, the more I learned, the more passionate I became. Because what I learned is that 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 6 to 10 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. It's astounding. Nearly a quarter of the female population and a tenth of the male population are sexually abused before they are 18 years old. Now what happened to my daughter is on the most extreme end of the spectrum of these crimes against our children. But what upsets me more than anything is that it is children who are the #1 victims of all violent crime in this country. All violent crime. And this is our march to stop it. To make people aware that it isn't up to just me, and it sure as heck isn't up to just our children. It is up to all of us to do everything we can to stop crimes against children. Because it is never okay. It is never okay. And every child deserves to know that nobody has the right to hurt them. And that if anybody does, there is stuff that we can share with them to do to get out of that situation.
Child abuse takes many forms. Abuse in the home, shaken baby syndrome, abuse in foster homes, child care, boot camps, and many other institutions, including churches and public and private schools.
A couple weeks ago in Orange County, there is a school teacher at a Catholic all-boys school. He was also a basketball coach at the local city high school. He deals with children. He went on Facebook and he set up a Facebook account as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl, and he targeted boys in his classroom and convinced them to send his girl Facebook account naked pictures. This pedophile then took those naked pictures of these little boys and sent them to pedophiles all across the country. That's how these guys get their information. The little boys think that they're flirting with this cute little girl. They weren't flirting with a cute little girl. They were flirting with a grown man that was set up to prey on the children. Did the parents not love their children by giving them a Facebook account? They still love their kids, but they trusted their kids. Parents can't trust their kids. Parents need to support their kids and love their kids and remind their kids that they cannot believe everything that's on the internet.
We are an organization that has to deal with bullying and creating awareness for kids and helping parents understand and creating some kind of laws against, like making the law stricter for kids who are bullying other kids. That's basically what it is. My daughter's been delayed since second grade, and she's been through a lot since second grade, and to the point where she almost lost her life, and the school knew about it, and they didn't really do anything. So I'm here. And my daughter's here to speak out about it, and hopefully the laws change. Basically, the school knew about the situation but failed to report it to me. So I had to find out from another parent that my daughter was cutting herself, was suicidal, and that it had everything to do with bullying. And they never really, they said they knew about it, but they failed to tell me, and they apologized, or they overlooked the whole incident. So that's why we want to make sure that if the school finds out that a child's bullied, that they take the proper precautions and they take the proper steps to address it, and identify it, and take care of it.
As more and more abuse scandals erupt, institutions which have been accused of collusion regarding their silence seem to waver between no reaction or overreaction. Some institutions have turned to independent studies to prove they are confronting the problem.
From what I've seen in the independent studies, whoever asks for the independent study, it usually goes the direction that they want the study to go to, unless they'll go out and do 3 or 4 studies. Because if you're a school and you want to say that the study proves your point, you're going to go out and do enough independent studies until you get an independent study that proves the point that you want to make, and then that's the independent study that you want to use. I'm not saying that independent studies are bad. I'm just saying that I think that they're geared towards the opinion of the people that are paying for the independent study to be done.
We want change now. We want for Brianna Lopez, who was murdered in 2002. We want for Samantha Runion in Oregon, who was brutally murdered by her biological mother. We want for Samantha Runion, who was brutally raped and murdered in 2002. We want for all of our fallen children. We want change now.
You can't solve a problem without admitting you have one. If you can cover up abuse in your home, it's a piece of cake to cover up corruption in your business, church, or government.
Our state, our community, our country is in really bad shape. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. The Democrats, the Republicans, both of them work together to screw our country up, and both of them are going to have to work together to fix it. And that's part of what we're doing here today, is trying to get people to work together to try and make the crimes against child abusers a little more severe. Well, they have to work together to make our country work right, because right now what they're doing is screwing up our country.
I hold every case close to my heart, and I plan to do this probably for the rest of my life. And I plan to hold this march every year. We had over 100 people registered to this march, and this is why this problem still exists. Because it's all about unity. And out of all the people that registered, look at how many are here. That's why this problem continues. And I'm tired of it, And you better bet that I'm going to be out there voicing this movement until the day I die. And I thank you for your support. I thank the Joyful Child Foundation. I thank JAB. I thank all the organizations that came out to support me today, Cuffed and Wanted. And I hope that next year, everybody join in the movement and help us change these laws, help us for stronger sentencing for these people that are violating our children, and those that are re-offending, coming back into our communities and violating our children over and over again. I'm tired of it. I'm done.
What is the answer? We'll never know if we stay in our own shadows. The time has come for advocates to join together and force this country to acknowledge the silent problem of child abuse and how it affects the stability of a nation. HEAL would like to thank Lin Seahorn and Children Without a Voice for providing this opportunity for advocates across the nation. It's time for all of us to come out of the shadows.